All right, everyone, we're going to get this next session started. It is my privilege to introduce Director of Technology from AT&T, Luke Rice, as he presents his use case overview of AT&T's addressing and qualification platform. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. Hope everybody got some lunch in them. I thought it was interesting that at a Mongo conference, there are certainly a lot of tables. It's a NoSQL joke for you. My name is Luke Rice. I'm, as he said, a Director of Technology at AT&T. I have been with AT&T for 13 years and have been working on this use case for the last several months. And just going to kind of walk you through what we're doing with Mongo, why we chose Mongo as a part of this transformation, and why we're specifically using Atlas as a part of that solution. So let me get into it. So from a use case perspective, let me help kind of paint the picture of what I'm responsible for and what our applications do. We focus on two main categories, the first of which is address management and validation. So this is, are we not seeing it? I will keep talking, but it will make sense. So address management and validation. So that is the management of the addresses where we deploy our products and services, the location data that is associated with those locations, as well as validating addresses whenever customers are requesting to buy products and services. It is obviously very important to be able to accurately determine where a customer is and what products we can deploy to what locations. Each of our products have different categories and qualifications for how we determine what products and services can be deployed to those areas. But I'm trying to buy time as this comes. But it'll pop up there, and we'll kind of go through it. But so one of the main operations there is obviously just the management of that specific location data and the CRUD operations related to that. We're also responsible for geocoding of that data, which is taking of an address or location data and turning it into a geospatial coordinate so that we can use that for a variety of purposes, as well as reverse geocoding, which is the opposite of that same process, taking location data and translating it back into an address. We also are responsible for address conflation. So we use and interact with data for locations from a variety of different sources. There are numerous companies, third-party companies that provide address data to us and that we interact with, as well as very numerous products and services within AT&T that track and manage location data. And with addresses, you will find that we often have we're just sharing that. You'll often find that you'll have typos. You'll have things where zip codes have changed, where just a variety of things are inconsistent. An engineer in the field may have typed an address wrong. And because of all of those situations, we have to be able to determine how to match up the addresses between different systems and merge them together so we know appropriately what is the overall offering that we can provide to that location. Well, I'll let them keep going. The service qualification portion of that. So there's a variety of ways that we qualify our products and services that we deploy to these locations. Mainly, or not mainly, but initially, that is tabular data. And you could imagine that as where you have a given location, an engineer deploys a product that is able to run there. Maybe it's a fiber or a copper line, and they just type in 123 Main Street. That is eligible for this product and this service. And now we move on. And so we just track that data and we know how to manage it. There are also geospatial calculations where we have to determine what products and services we are eligible for at that location based on different geospatial data, whether that's how near you are to a given distribution point, or it's are you close to a distribution point, but there is or isn't geospatial boundaries between them. Maybe there's a river or a road that we know we can't get across. How do we do those calculations? For copper-based services, we have to determine how far you are from our distribution points, how many people with what bandwidths are on those different strands so that we can determine what can we reasonably offer in a consistent manner to the customers at those locations. So there's a number of geospatial calculations that are part of that qualification process. We have additional business rules in how we deploy and serve products that are based on all sorts of different data, and we have to build those into our logic in how we deploy and how we qualify these services. And we have to do so consistently, and we have to know what addresses we're deploying to and when. I don't know if I'm actually controlling this. Can we just swap to the next slide? Okay. Well, actually, no, hang on. I didn't even talk about the right half. I was just looking at this side. So we'll talk about that diagram over there. So we have a variety of ways that people interact with our platform. That includes user interfaces where people are interacting with a GUI that provides visibility into all of the data that is associated with a given location. And they can interact with it. Some of them are allowed to change the data. Some of them interact with map-based views to determine how to visualize the data and where it is and how we want to qualify to services, where we want to sell, how we market, how we change our strategies there. A large amount of the traffic coming into our application is through APIs. We have a number of APIs, both TMF compliant APIs as well as larger kind of orchestration APIs that do a number of these different capabilities. We have a lot of volume that goes through APIs, and that's one of the main ways that people interact with our data and our systems. We also do bulk processing for taking in large amounts of data. We'll take 50, 300 million records at a given time to pre-process, to validate. We'll take marketing lists from third-party providers. We have to validate that so we know that the address and the version of the address that vendor has provided to us, that we know appropriately how to qualify and determine what can be qualified and sold to that given partner. We'll keep it going. Data feeds. So we have different groups that interact with our data from just a data feed perspective. They can subscribe to our data. They can receive it from into a Snowflake. We push all the data into Snowflake so they can use that for various analytic purposes. We also offer the ability to subscribe to different change streams of monitoring specific aspects of data so they know whenever those locations change, whenever qualifications for a given region change, that they can subscribe and receive those updates. Finally, we do reports, so just basic reporting data about this environment and what we can do. There we go. All right, so just kind of walking through the impact of that. I know it's just talking about validation and service qualification, but it actually impacts a very wide variety of our product and service lifecycle. It involves planning. It involves design. Planning is like before we've even designed how we're going to build out our fiber and where we're going to roll out our copper, et cetera. From a design perspective and how we design those networks and how we choose which neighborhoods we're going to hit at what times, how we're going to run the distribution points to that, how we know how many addresses are in a given area, so we know how many fiber strands to run to those terminals, et cetera. Construction and engineering, interacting with them as they are actually doing the build, making sure that they're deploying to the addresses that we understand as we understand them. An additional complexity item here is the fact that we build into new neighborhoods before we even know what the street names are. So we're trying to build out and qualify these capabilities before we even know what the address is. So we have to build in ways of managing that unknown factor for our primary key of address and the ability to come back and adjust to that to make sure it's a seamless process. We work with pre-sales. We work with marketing and sales. Ordering, provision, fulfillment, we're actually selling and ordering and taking those orders and translating them into purchases. All of that is involved in the system, and it is a very significant impact, and I'll go into the numbers here in a second, but we cannot sell products and services without these systems being online and live, because that is how we qualify, that's how we determine who can buy what, and so it is extremely important as a part of the AT&T landscape. We are involved in billing, from billing addresses and making sure we know how and where to send those bills, and because that is an important part of the process as well. Service management. So whenever we're rolling trucks, we work with the dispatch teams and helping them to understand the landscape in which we're deploying those trucks and what types of issues they may encounter based on that environment. Our total unique locations that we have in the system, and again, we have a wide variety of snapshots of each of these versions, but if you just look at total unique, we have about 380 million addresses. For products and services, we manage about 40. There's a little more than that, and that does not include sub-products. So we work with consumer and enterprise and business, small business products that are deployed in a variety of fashions, every one of which is qualified differently. So we have to be able to maintain those complex business rules and understand what can be done at what addresses and when. Our daily API volumes that we have, oh, this is working, so we're good to go. We have about 14 million transactions a day on our address platform. It is a somewhat significant number, and whenever we are on large sell days, really important days such as our iPhone launch day and things like that, it becomes extra critical that we can handle peaks in that volume because we will see additional volume coming through. We also work with a variety of applications within the AT&T landscape. We have about 250 different applications that all interact with these systems from a variety of purposes through all of those different interactions that I talked about. We have a lot of clients that rely on this data that have been built up over a number of years. So what are we doing here, and why am I here? We are a part of we are in a journey of modernization through this platform. We have a number of different systems that have all been built up over different times, and those have been built and designed for given products and services as those are rolled out, and as it's determined that the existing capabilities are not sufficient to meet the needs of a new product, or an acquisition has come in where we need to be able to market products. For example, lately we need to be able to market our fiber to out of region, which is out of our normal footprint, and work with the Gigapower initiative in the West. So one of the approaches that I like to try and relate this to is we do a lot of modernization. In a big company like AT&T, we have over 4,000 applications that are managed and modernized, and you keep going through. And every time we do that, we identify a set of applications, and we want to take all of those and we want to modernize, and we're going to create a platform. And that platform is going to be able to take all of those capabilities, merge them all into one, and be able to serve those use cases. And we try to design it as future-looking as possible. But what happens is every app that we're trying to replace generally did that same thing. They all wanted to be the platform. They all sought to, retire the previously existing applications and replace that capability and move it into this. And so as we modernize, we want to try to break that pattern. We want to break the need to restructure and rebuild and start from scratch again in 5 or 10 years and create something that can allow the flexibility, not just in our application capabilities, but our data as well. We have a lot of technical debt in these applications. We have about 12 apps that I manage right now that are all part of this modernization journey that are being merged into one solution. And so as you can imagine, that just builds up a lot of technical debt. You have a lot of force-fit functions. When new products and services are offered, we have to try and force these things in to where it's not really designed to do that, but if we can kind of set this flag here, we can push it there, the data will just show up here. We don't really know how that works, but then we can take this mainframe app and we can do this. And we have a lot of things that have been pushed into applications that just aren't really designed for that. And so we're trying to take a step back and really try to modernize what we offer. We also have just a lot of distributed logic. We have distributed data. We have distributed integrations with these different partners. Those partners have to interact with multiple of these applications that are all part of one suite. And it would be much easier if I could bring all of those functions together into one and serve them all together. We have many sources of truth. Each of those has their own scope of what they're considered the system of record for. And that just becomes extremely inefficient when we're trying to conflate those addresses, when we're trying to take those location data items and bring them together and know which is the true source for this piece of data. If someone comes to me and says, hey, this address is wrong, I should be able to get fiber here, I've got to figure out which system is the one that's supposed to be the system of truth for that specific function and determine how to resolve that. The solution that we have gone with, we love acronyms at AT&T, as I'm sure the rest of the tech world do. INLAP is the acronym we have chosen. It is an Intelligent Network Location Application Platform. And just a real high-level view of this architecture, MongoDB Atlas is at the core. That's why we're here. That's why I'm here at this conversation talking to you. But going up from there, we'll talk about kind of our exposure to our partners. We have a microservices layer. We're deployed in Azure. We have a microservices layer that is deployed in AKS, where we have a variety of services that serve each of those core API functions and interact directly with Mongo. We have a UI layer that sits over top of that. We also have an integration layer through MuleSoft that allows us to connect those APIs to a variety of our partners to allow clients to be throttled and managed and understood kind of how they're engaging with their data, what their needs are, how we can continue to adapt that. From an intake perspective, starting at the bottom, from a data ingestion, we support a variety of, or we want to support a variety of means of taking in data updates, whether that's just feeding in batch files through Python scripts, or it's subscribing to Oracle relational databases through Golden Gate. We have a data processing layer that sits, and it is built on the Event Hub, and it takes that data and it translates it in and feeds it into Atlas. And then from an outbound data, this is towards your more Snowflake partners, your reporting, and your data streams. From Mongo, we have the ability to set up those change streams and have people subscribe to specific data sets. And from a data processing perspective, we have the ability to just generate bulk loads of batches of data that different partners, internal and external, need as a snapshot into our data and our services. So why did we choose Mongo as a part of this transformation strategy? The biggest thing is, I think, the simplified data structure. It allows us to have a single source of truth where we've taken all of our data and merged it into one single view. One of the benefits of this platform specifically, and the things that I think really help it translate to a core Mongo use case, is the fact that our business object that everything is designed and built around is singular. It's locations. That's my object. All the other data is associated to a location. It's not a really big, complex, spaghetti design of a relational database. It's all based on location. So if I can take all of the data about a given location, whether it's the attributes of that location, the physical attributes at that location, the geospatial info about it, as well as the products and services that are near it, that it's pre-qualified for and processed for, all of that into one spot, I can hit that, I can grab it. I haven't had to go do those joins. I haven't had to query all those different schemas and pull all the data from the different applications, but I've got one single source of truth. I have a dynamic schema. We continue to build new products and services that need data that we don't have fields for. We don't know what the products and services are going to be of the future. We don't know how things like AI or some of the edge computing things that we do are going to change the way that we need to track and store data about our locations. So I can't design a system that allows me to have a just complete environment to flexibly add to each of those locations the data that's associated with it. Obviously you do need to have a plan, and you need to have somewhat of a schema strategy as opposed to just dumping data in there. And we've heard that a couple times already today. But it allows us to do that without needing to force fit a bunch of empty columns that are going to be empty for 95% of those 380 million addresses. We have less data duplication just by the way that we've designed that, not needing to replicate across all those systems, not just in the way that we normalize our data, but also just the fact that we have so many different disparate systems that track different views and snapshots into that data. This helps us simplify that and bring it all into one place. We have multiple data ingestion options, as I talked about. Golden Gate, Kafka, we can stream based on events, we can take batches, we can process them, we can feed to or from Snowflake, et cetera. We have also built-in geospatial functions. This is just an awesome offering that Mongo provides, that it allows us to not rely on a third-party system to do those geospatial calculations. So think things like point and location to other point, the distance from 2 points between each other. That is a common calculation that is done as a part of both map and qualification services, and that is built-in offering to Mongo, so it's optimized to interact with the data, and I don't have to go and provide some third-party, I don't have to bring in some third-party tool to be able to do those capabilities. I also can determine what points are within a given polygon. And so whenever we draw polygons for the regions in which we're going to deploy a specific service, we can determine what are the addresses that are within that consistently without having to go and do that analysis somewhere else. Chain streams, already mentioned this, subscribing to the various capabilities that we have, or the various changes that you're going to have in that data, and being able to track those. So why do we choose Atlas as a part of that? We could have just built our own Mongo instance, could have deployed that. Atlas provides a lot of additional capability that we deemed necessary as a part of this solution. So I'm going to just kind of walk you through that. One of them is kind of the most obvious that you would imagine. It's platformization. It's us needing to, or us being able to take all of the stuff around managing an environment, of managing the operations, and taking that and just saying, Mongo, you take care of it. I don't want to deal with it. I want to focus on my business value, not on all of the normal operational stuff of spinning up things, of scaling, and all the intricacies of owning those rules, of owning the environment, of patching, of vulnerabilities, of all of those capabilities. All of that is just basic SaaS. It's provided by Mongo, and so it's an encompassed data solution that does all of those capabilities for us. It also gives us integrated and managed tooling. And so I say that because I'm sure you guys have experienced this in the past. When you build out your database and you build out a new environment in Azure and you're deploying and playing around with different technologies, there's always a different tool that'll do something. And it's, well, go integrate with this tool because it's going to give you this modeling or this profiling, or it's going to do this tracing and this logging and all of these different things. And it's, what's the next hot thing? Well, now I've got to take 5 weeks and have my DevOps guys go and figure out how to integrate that. Do we have duplication? Do we have two tools that are doing the same thing? How do we manage all that? All of these tooling capabilities related to the data, related to insights into the data, are all provided by Mongo for us, and they work on those and enhance those and build those out, so I don't have to go and determine what are the appropriate tools that are part of this solution for me to try to integrate that are going to be the most efficient here. So that thing is things like data profiling and analyzing the performance of our queries and the efficiency of our queries proactively for us, giving us monitoring and logging that's engaged or integrated throughout the process. It also gives us resiliency, both from a patching and resolution of a variety of issues that come up normally whenever you're managing an environment, but I'll get to it in a second, but the scalability perspective as well. And so flexibility and time to market, that is also extremely important. We want to move fast. Everybody wants us to move fast. The people who are funding me want me to move fast. And that is valuable for us to be able to interact with Atlas, because if I need a new schema, if I want to just test something out, if we're playing with a new way of doing our Mongo search, I can just go and click a button on the GUI or go to the CLI, and it's up. It's there within just a couple minutes, and I can interact with it. I can engage with it. I haven't had to go up and set up a new cluster and set up new endpoints and figure out how I'm going to connect to it and who can connect to it and manage that whole environment. All of it contained within that GUI and through this platform allows me to move faster towards what I need to do. It also, as you've heard already today, is multi-region and multi-cloud. We are singular cloud. We are only on Azure, but we do require our solutions like this to be multi-region. And so that being built in, and I don't need to manage what data is where and which regions we're choosing and how we connect those two and all that. All of that is facilitated by the Atlas platform, and it enables me to just focus on building value on top of this. Scalability and elasticity, that's just I think obvious and into the value that it provides. Scalability from a pre-build out of the amount of capacity that you have, and elasticity from the ability to auto-respond to fluctuations in your needs, whether that's transaction volume or data volume. We need to pre-scale up whenever we're expecting a large hit. And you can set up rules within Atlas to have it auto scale up your clusters, and you can do that either in your current environment with how many clusters you provide, or even within a sharding strategy whenever you need to have it split it out. But all of that is managed within Atlas and is provided within their capabilities to us. Finally, I can't see my whole slide, but native search is important as well. And that gives us the ability to query into those addresses. It is a very complex challenge for us to work with addresses, because people will have different ways that they type their address. Maybe they use street, they type it out. Maybe they just leave it off. Maybe it's ST, maybe it's STRT. All of those things, we have to understand what they mean and return the correct address. We don't want to sell to the wrong address. That's going to make it for a very frustrated customer and maybe a very happy other customer that received whatever you tried to pay for. But those are hugely important to us. And so the native search, with the ability to build up synonyms for what they may mean, what we understand as the different options for that, and how they translate to the addressing world. That is something that we've had logic for a long time, and has been kind of a distributed solution that we've had to manage. And all of that now can be inherited into this Mongo Atlas offering for us. I did have one more, workload isolation. So this allows us to isolate our workloads, to focus on making sure that we don't have one singular data source that's going to be heavily impacted by our batch operations. Whenever we have a marketing client that comes in and says, hey, I need you to run these 30 million addresses right now and validate them so I know who I can market this product to. They'll come in and I'll run that, and I can do that in a separate environment, a separate cluster than this cluster that is providing our API traffic. So the API traffic can be independently managed. We don't affect any of those operations. We don't even build latency. It's all completely independent, and it's smooth. An extra one here, continual modernization. So we need to continue to modernize, and I'll get into this in a second, but Mongo being focused on the modernization of their platform allows me to focus on the modernization of my platform. And so just to kind of wrap up those kind of perspectives, Mongo's focus in this partnership is on their data platform modernization. They have product engineers that we work with. They have these geniuses that we interact with all the time. They're focused on understanding how best they can transform their data offering to customers like us. That is their customer impact. We are their customers. They're out there trying to make that as amazing a solution as possible. And they're focused purely on that. And I can capitalize on that because that's exactly what I'm buying from them as a part of this. From AT&T perspective, my focus is the business value of those clients that interact with me. It's everybody on that sheet, from pre-sales, to the construction engineering, to our customers. All of those folks rely on me to innovate and to deliver business value through this solution of being able to do so quickly, to proactively analyze where we can deploy services, where we should be marketing and building out those things. That is my customer impact, and I get to focus more on that because I don't have to be sitting here fiddling switches with how we determine how to structure our data and how to build out the most resilient, perfect blend of spread out clusters versus whatever. And all of that is abstracted to me, and I can just focus on what my business wants from me. The BCG group, they have a concept that's called the innovation flywheel, and I think it's really important and impactful to understand in how this enables us to keep our flywheel moving. What I found has been extremely challenging in my world, working in tech, is that it's extremely hard to be very hands-on and just working, coding, doing all of your normal stuff, and then told, oh, you got 20 minutes here, go innovate something. Oh, you got 2 weeks, this is your last iteration in the PI. Like, go innovate, go build something new. It's so hard to redirect from doing your normal business to just say, oh, I'm gonna go innovate. Like, what am I gonna innovate? I'm gonna spend 30 minutes or 2 weeks just trying to think about what I even do. I haven't built up a process for being able to innovate. And so the idea is that you have this continual process, this flywheel that you get moving that is designed to capitalize on just the momentum that you get from that, just like a flywheel operates. And whenever I get that flywheel moving of gathering data and generating insights and doing experiments and innovating on top of that, but I also have I have the flywheel moving here for innovation, but then I've got to go focus on operations, and I've got to focus on all this other stuff. You're trying to shift that wheel somewhere else, and it's just not conducive to success. And so the idea is that this allows me to keep my flywheel so narrowly focused on the business value that I can provide to my customers that it allows me to succeed. It allows me to keep that innovation going and keep that fostered. So it's not like let's innovate for a little bit, but then we're going to have to go work on ops for a while. We're going to have to work on database schema design for a while. All of that is managed by Mongo so that they can focus on keeping their innovation flywheel flying for the product offering, and then I can focus on mine. One of the things that I've enjoyed about working with Mongo is it has really been a partnership. We have people at AT&T who participate in the customer advisory board who help shape where the technology is going, who give feedback on the different product offerings, and so just being a part of that process has been very engaging and very rewarding to be a part of that. Product manager alignment session. So we sit down and meet with the product managers for some of these different functions, and for Atlas to be able to understand how best to relate to what the product is offering and where the product is going. And so those are hugely valuable to us. How am I doing on time? Is that accurate? Yeah. Okay. Professional services. So we also work with engineers, some of the folks that have talked today, and some other folks who are not here today, we work with on a recurring basis to make sure that the way we're utilizing this platform is as effective as possible. And that also opens up that ability for us to have that feedback cycle of providing our insights of what we would like to see happen with the product. They also offer training and internal skill building. So as we also just had talked about, there's the amount of training that is available to us, and having all of that being very polished and very ready for us to consume, rather than it being something that we're pushing a product out the door and then we try to learn it because they haven't yet built the training for it. All of that comes very instantaneously, and all of that is provided as an excellent offering. And so the partnership of that learning has been very beneficial for our teams. Just a couple tips to close here for kind of if you're going to build with MongoDB, whether you're building a new application or you're trying to modernize something that already exists, I encourage you to start with experimentation. It is a paradigm shift from the relational databases that we're used to. You can do very relational sort of deployments, but that would usually be a disservice to the product and to your application that you're trying to build on top of it. So I would encourage you, before you even try to do the design and try to go figure out how you're going to structure your data, just experiment. Take the data that you have, take a subset of that, push it into Mongo, change the way that you're structuring it with, interact with it, just engage with that data and understand the product offerings that Mongo offers as a part of building in Mongo. And that will open up your eyes, and you'll have that light bulb moment of, oh, I can restructure this, and I can now do this, and I don't even need to do this entire sector of what my responsibilities used to be, because all of that is no longer necessary, because I've restructured the way I store and track my data. And then design your solution based on the benefits of Mongo. Mongo is very adept at providing a variety of solutions that are very valuable in their categories of those different design patterns. Follow those design patterns, and then design your solution around the business value you're looking to achieve, and figure out how Mongo supports that, rather than just, hey, I'm just going to lift and shift the same thing. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to have the same APIs. We're going to have the same data feeds. We're going to interact in the exact same way. That's just not a fruitful way to engage with the platform, and I just encourage you to really take a step back at your solution, identify what the value is that you provide to your customers, and how you can meet those needs with Mongo. And that is it. So, thank you.